Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 17 of Deep in the Novo. I'm Ryan Novozinsky, joined here as always by my co-host Sudeep Tumma, and this is the first ever, this is episode 17, but this is the first ever basketball preview. I know we've done a couple interviews for basketball in the past, sure, but this is the season preview of what is going to be, oh my gosh, the offseason was wild. But this season is going to be absolutely outstanding for the OSU Cowboys. Obviously touting that one guy, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Cade Cunningham, the number one recruit coming in addition to Isaac Likely and the guys that are already there. You know, we'll probably see a starting lineup of our projected one is Cade, Isaac Likely at the 2, Farron Flavors at the 3, Matthew Alexander Moncrief at the 4, and Caleb Boone at the 5, rounding out the lineup for the Cowboys there. Man, oh man, Sudeep, it's going to be an interesting season.
It really will be, and yeah, you're right. The offseason was crazy, right? so many things going on, but testament to Coach Boyd and just not only a great basketball coach, a great recruiter, but a great person, right? For any program, even Duke. Mm-hmm. If this were happening to Duke, I don't think this many guys, if
I agree.
You know what I mean? Just like this many guys to stay, and not just stay, but guys who haven't had a tie to the program yet, right? Who are just freshmen, guys who like Farron Flavors, a grad transfer. This is last year.
Yeah,
good chance he doesn't make March Madness, but to just have so much respect and so much of a bond with a coach like Mike Boynton just speaks volumes to what he's done with this program. I mean, just the recruiting class is a top 5 recruiting class, and the guy has not won anything, right? I mean, no knock on him. I mean, kind of, but you know what I mean? Like, usually you see great recruiters marked down by winning, right? The best recruiters are the guys who have so much persona and so much charm, like Mike Boynton, right? Who can do it winning or not. But to not only draw on the number one recruit, but this good of a recruiting class just speaks volumes to who he is as a person. Yeah,
and it's interesting too because it's like a freaking video game. This is like a video game where you're going in and like having to build a recruiting class, and you're just some nobody who was just coaching at Tulane. Like I'm talking like those NCAA video games, and he's literally just doing it at a level that I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't know that we've seen this in recent history. Like, this is a guy who came from, Brad Underwood's a good coach. He built some solid teams over there at Stephen F. Austin. But Mike Boynton was just some assistant coach that just decided to come over, right? And now he's pulling in the number one player in 2 North American countries.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everything, right? Like, from the moment he was hired, it was almost a shock, a surprise, right? And now obviously he's becoming huge with fan base, with everyone. But for Mike Holder to put so much behind this guy, right? I mean, again, not to match Mike Gundy or anything, but there's times where he's more testy with Mike Gundy and saying, okay, yeah, this guy's almost on the line. But Mike Boynton, the guy who's won 15 games, 10 games, 15, 18 games, is he has full confidence in? Your athletic director has that much confidence in you. That just speaks to what this program is, what it's going toward, and everything about it.
Yeah, and he certainly is building something special here at Oklahoma State. We'll see how it goes, and I think this is one of the seasons where you'll finally see that these building blocks start to build skyscrapers. I think really, it's not even about building a foundation of a house anymore. This is about building a city, and Mike Boynton's going to be able to do it this season with Cade Cunningham, a guy who's just an IQ freak. This is going to be the number one pick of the NBA draft next year, right?
No
doubt. This is a guy who, I mean...
Likely.
when you Isaac? No, but, I mean, you look at his IQ. The thing that sticks out to me, his passing is outstanding, and just all these other physical intangibles that he has. I mean, not to say that he's, a guy who's going to be jumping out the gym, and is going to be the quickest guy out there. He still has a solid base in that athleticism, but when you look at what he's able to do with that IQ, with that court vision, with all these other intangibles intact, Cade Cunningham's going to be a special thing at OSU.
He's such a unique superstar.
Yeah.
Right? You just mentioned the athleticism. He's not Zion Williamson, right? He's not RJ Barrett. He's not any of these athletic freaks, right? But he is so smart. His IQ jumps off the charts and then to another chart. Like, it's awesome. And the thing that I think just wraps it up so well, this was a guy who is a no-name forward, right? But regardless of the fact that he's no-name, he was setting screens constantly, right? He was moving without the ball because that's how forwards operate, right? A small forward, a 6'5", 6'2", whatever small forward who was just looking to make his way, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's moving without the ball. He's understanding as a cutter, as a guy who was receiving the pass from his point guards,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then he grows 6'8". He gets much better. 6'6", 6'7", whatever. Now he's 6'8", right? And that sort of IQ, I mean, you can never play forward and you can still have a high IQ, but that just helps you understand so much because you've been in those positions. You understand how to manipulate it. You understand where your guys are going to be. You understand everything, right? And his IQ is just off the charts. His understanding of pace, controlling the offense as a floor general is just, astronomical,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's so good at that, controlling it, not just the playmaking, not just the passing. I talked about this a lot last year with Lindy Waters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between passing and being a floor general.
Yeah.
And he has both, obviously, right?
Yeah.
This guy is, the best passer. He's going to be the best passer in the nation, likely. He's so good at that, and he's just so smart. Like I said, he's not Zion Williamson, but that shouldn't knock off his athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Still a very good athlete, but he's such a unique superstar because of that. He's not a guy who's just going to be dropping 40, 50, 60 in high school every single night, right? He's going to make his teammates better. He's going to make a lot of plays, and he is explosive near the rim. I say he's not Zion, but he's still a very good athlete, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy who is near the rim. He is, like, undefendable. He uses his strength so well.
Mm-hmm.
His IQ he has got an array of moves, obviously, and he's so explosive near the rim. He can dunk the ball, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But his playmaking, like I said, it makes everyone better.
Mm-hmm.
He can set up the play, and then also he can find guys. And there's drives where, to me, it's just amazing body manipulation, eye contact, where he's pushing his body one way, his eyes one way. And, I've made those passes before. I know where the ball is about to go. And for him to just shove his shoulders one way and his eyes and his his neck will go one way, and you're sure it's going that way, and it'll get the defense to bite just a millisecond too late, and the pass is out, and a guy's wide open for a three or something. And it's always those kind of things that just jump off the page.
Are you saying that you're a little bit like Cade Cunningham? I'm just saying. Sudeep is a very good point guard. I'll tell you what. He's lasered some passes to me, and that's what Cade Cunningham is able to do.
Right.
I'm not putting him in the same categories, though, but I'm saying this is a guy.
I hope not.
This is a guy who goes out there and maybe it's because we're still in football season that I'm focused on this a little bit, but I get giddy about the fact that this is a guy. His passes are sharp too.
Yeah,
they're lasered in there, and
he's got so much
yeah,
strength.
Exactly. And like you said, he's not an athletic freak. He's not, by no means, or I say by no means, by no means of like you said, R.J. Barrett or a guy like Zion. But my goodness, he makes up for it and tenfold with all these other things that he's able to do. Defense, I think he's fantastic too. I think his intelligence on offense, with the court vision, with some of the things he's able to do, with some of these passes that he makes. I don't even think his teammates know sometimes that he's making. And just sort of he embeds that intelligence in the teammates to where they might not know that the pass is coming. They know it when it's coming from Cade Cunningham because he's such an intelligent type of player. And he's able to do it on defense, too. I mean, just with help defense, not only help defense, but his ability to rotate around, his ability to sort of, I guess, understand where he's needed, and to be that sort of quick guy out there is just a wonderful sight to see. And OSU fans are going to appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I love. When you watch the high school game, that was one of the things that stuck out to me. It wasn't just that he's a good defender. Mm-hmm. He is an elite defender. Yeah. Let's not get that twisted. Top prospects don't always play defense. This guy not only played defense, he loved playing defense. Mm-hmm. 3/4 court, three quarters up the court.
Yeah.
When the guy's dribbling, he is going up there full,
mm-hmm.
knees bent, full, position. And he is intense. He is pressuring the ball.
Slap the court.
Right. He is pressuring the ball. Like, he's intense, right? He's in there. You see the scrappy guys always do that, right? Mm-hmm. Who are trying to make a name for themselves. This is the number one recruit, and he is playing such hard defense. That's what I love. And he's versatile, obviously. I mean, 6'8", he can defend bigger guys, right? 2, 3s, 4s. It gives you so much versatility, and that's going to be a trend here. But it's so much versatility. He loves playing defense. He does it so well, rotates well. IQ, again, defensive IQ. Length can create steals. It's all these sort of traits that are just make him so crazy.
Yeah.
And then as a shooter, right? Mm-hmm. Let's first of all dispel the rumor that Cade Cunningham is not a shooter.
Whoa. Cade is not a shooter.
Yes, exactly. And I mean that became somewhere along the way. It became a popular trend. But you go and watch the game, and it's like this: Cade is not a shooter the way he is a driver, but the way he's a driver is better than almost everyone else in the nation, right? In high school, of course. But he is a good shooter. Like, you saw him. in high school, and when you gave him here's the thing. When you're in high school and you're Cade Cunningham, you're better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Most plays, you can get to the rim. This is also a guy who's a very good ball handler as well. And he can get to the rim. He can make plays. He can draw double teams. So why wouldn't you, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the defense comes 5 feet off you, which rarely happen because they know how good of a sort of solid shooter he is, right? And also you don't want to give Cade Cunningham a head of steam going downhill, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he did, you saw this guy pull up with no hesitation, constantly. And when he shot, I love the mechanics. High, nice up, nice high release, very quick, not very, very quick, but it was solid, quick release. And the mechanics looked really good. The ball went in. The percentage wasn't amazing, but overall, he just didn't take a lot of threes. But I think he's a guy where you can't leave him really wide open because he'll burn you at times. And word is he's gotten even better as a shooter, which is awesome, right? And like you said, he thinks he's the best shooter. But I mean, overall, this is a guy who, I mean, not to think too much into it, but this is a guy who puts everything off of him, puts it on his teammates because he's that unselfish guy. He's not talking about how good he is. He wants to talk about his teammates. And for him to even just joke about the fact that he's the best shooter, it just shows that, yeah, this guy is confident in his shooting, which is great. Because he can shoot. He can stretch out the defense, which is awesome. And, yeah, overall, this guy's a package.
Yeah, he's going to make his teammates a whole heck of a lot better this year. And they're already very, very good. And you look when talking about his teammates, right, let's stick in that backcourt. Let's talk about how what do you think this dynamic of Cade at the 1, right, likely at the 2, how do you think that's going to work this year? What do you think that's going to look like?
For me, I think it's one of those things where as we go more and more along basketball, historically, positionless basketball is becoming more and more of a thing. In 2020, it's at an all-time high.
Huge, yeah.
And having 2 point guards is absolutely fine, right? Like I said, this is guy, Cade Cunningham, who played small forward, right? He knows how to play those off guard. He knows how to play an off guard position. He knows how to play small forward, which nobody's going to put him at small forward, right? This is Cade Cunningham. But he knows how to take some plays off and understands where to move the ball, set some picks, play within the flow of the offense. But Isaac Likely as well. This is a guy who is very smart, right? At times he played alongside of Avery Anderson. And the thing I love about both these guys, but especially Ice you saw last year, he can post up. He can post up on the block. He can make passes out of it. He can score out of it. And he can move without the ball. When he passes, he sets up the play, but he can move without the ball. He can set some picks. He can, run screens down, right? You got those back screens as well. You got a lot of different things, and I think it's going to work well because you just have 2 guys who are such good playmakers, right? 2 smart guys, and that's never a bad thing. The dynamic, right? Cade, a better shooter, that helps for sure. And I think Isaac Likely should, again, development is not something you can track, right? It's the hardest thing to predict in sports. I say this time and time again. But you saw a little bit with Isaac Likely. He's got that mid-range. He really had it last year, right? You saw that was impressive. But if you can really stretch out the 3-point range, it helps you more and more. But it's not going to be a thing of, hey, yeah, if one can't shoot, it's not going to work. It's if Cade Cunningham draws a double team and passes out to Isaac Likely on 3-point line, even if Isaac Likely cannot shoot, just that little bit of the defense coming 2 feet off of Isaac Likely, dribble, drive, penetration, that is deadly. And, when you get the defense outset, see, I'll say this, just to give an example. Trae Young at OU, he had, 10-something assists, something very high assists, right? But the assists that never show up on the stat sheet are the one where he's driving in, he draws double, triple teams. Even if just for a second, one of the defenders off a shooter gets peeled off, right, just 3 feet, he passed that guy can dribble in off dribble, drive, penetration, get to the rim, or just work against an unset defense. That's what Cade Cunningham can do. That's what Isaac Likely can do.
Yeah.
Right? You just open up these things. And I think the dynamic is going to be flush. I think you have 2 playmakers. There's never a downside. In transition, you're going to be ridiculous. And on defense, Isaac Likely is one of the best defenders in the nation, right? And let's not get this twisted either. Ice, when he's healthy, is, I think, in my opinion, one of the best point guards in the nation.
I agree.
Right? Yeah, I mean, as a playmaker, we talk about Cade just because he's on another level, but Isaac Likely is an excellent playmaker.
Yeah.
He made this team run as a leader, as a guy on the floor, and you saw it, right? After starting, 7-0, 8-0, whatever it was, this team fell apart until he got healthy toward the end. And that's where the glue, right? It was just that, where when he's not making passes, the floor general to set things up, to control the pace. That's so important in basketball. That's what this team really missed, because after Isaac Likely, you didn't have another guy who could really control the pace and still make plays. Most of the time it was Lindy Waters, and I thought he did great as a scorer, but when he's bringing the ball
you.
down, right? He's just coming down and pulling up threes because he's not a true floor general, right? And you needed that. Now you got 2. There's no disadvantage.
And you got 2 of the best in the country. And I think you're right. That dribble drive penetration is going to be the course of attack, and it's going to be lethal against some of these defenses in the Big 12. I mean, come on. You were adding Cade Cunningham.
The defense. Oh, my God.
Yeah, the defense is going to be outstanding. Oh, my goodness. You just look at both their athleticism and the way that,
Isaac Likely's a great athletic guy.
Isaac Likely is, and like you said,
6'5", 6'8".
he is just a dominant beast on defense too. Like, this is a guy who could defend multiple positions, right? But he can also, like, the position that he primarily defends in some of the guards and some of the top guards in the Big 12. My goodness, like, he's able to not only play help defense, but he can face guard too and play in one-on-one in like man-to-man type of situations. He's going to be deadly to some of these teams that he plays against this year.
No doubt.
I just wish we could see it in the tournament.
I mean, there's no 100% we're not going to see it, but there's likely that I don't think they will.
Isaac Likely?
But yeah, I mean, like I said, Isaac Likely 6'5", Cade Cunningham is 6'8". I think Cunningham, I don't know his official number, but rumor has it 7-foot wingspan at least. Wingspan is length. Oh my God! Imagine attacking the passing lanes, picking the pocket of guys. 2 competitive defenders.
Yeah.
Right. So competitive. This defense is gonna lock this backcourt is gonna lock down other guys. Overall, I think they're gonna play off each other so well because 2 very unselfish guys. Right. Not just unselfish. And here's the thing: when you talk about unselfish, I don't just mean unselfish mean that in the way that they're just going to pass the ball and they're going to make plays because they're unselfish. In the fact that they understand that, if a guy's hot, or even if just a guy, get him in the right position, he has a mismatch, or he just has a good advantage, or he's feeling good that night, you just hand them the ball and let him work. You're not going to get an assist. Nothing's going to show up on the stat sheet for you. But you make the right play. That's true unselfishness, and both those guys have it.
They totally do, and they're both excellent passers as well. That gets me excited about what this team's able to do this year. And another thing, too, here's a great element to this team, is that the floor spacing is going to be so much better than it was in years past, I think. Obviously, DeZog was leaving, and you're not going to have that type of very good jump shot from the outside there. But you have guys coming in. I mean, Farron Flavors. Here's a guy who can shoot out the jib. I feel like this guy, when he gets hot, he's going to be a guy who's going to turn a couple heads. This is a guy who has the confidence of him maybe going to the NBA.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I talked to Farron several times, and he's just a confident guy. Sure. And, he believes that he is going to the NBA, and he's willing to work to that goal. He's not just a guy who just thinks it, right? He's been working his entire career. He is, from high school, he's been overlooked. I talked to his coach as well, and his coach told me stories of, this is a guy, Farron, who came in the first day of practice, and he told everyone, "Hey, I'm the best shooter in this team. I'm the best shooter in the nation." And everyone's like, "Wait, what?" But he was sitting on the bench first 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th and 12th. He won the state championships both years. When he goes to college, goes to community college, goes to Fairfield, goes to Cal Baptist for a year. Then he ends up here.
The Fairfield Stags.
And each year he's just working harder and harder. But I think shooting is so key to this team. I'm sure you do as well, because last year, worst three-point shooting percentage in the Big 12. 276th in the nation out of, 353 teams?
Yeah, that's not great.
Not great. Yeah. And you didn't need numbers to tell you how bad it was, right? And now you lost your best shooter, Thomas DeZogwa, right? And overall, but you lost a couple guys, but that's not really what anyone feels like, right? There's no feeling of, we lost Thomas DeZogwa. It's a feeling of, we got so much more shooters, right? And you see it all over. Farron Flavors is the tip of the iceberg, honestly. Like, this is a guy who's an excellent shooter. Quick release, very heavy trigger. He's ready to pull, and now he's playing with the best playmaker of his entire career, right? He hasn't had this ever. 2 guys now. I think Isaac Likely probably would have been the best playmaker he's played with. Now he's got 2 of them,
there you
right?
go.
He's got an offense.
And one that's even more elite than that.
Exactly. And you have that sort of thing. Bryce Williams, another guard who's transferring. I wasn't sure what his exact role was when he transferred over here from Ole Miss, but the way Coach Boynton's been talking, it looks like this might be the 6th man, 7th man, someone who's coming off quick off the bench. And that's really exciting because he's a good shooter, good playmaker, he's good at everything, as Coach Boynton referred to. But when I watch him, the number one thing that just jumps off of you explosive athletic ability.
Mm-hmm.
Like Russell Westbrook. He's just not even, I'm not saying he's Russell Westbrook, but when you watch him move and his run, his aura, his nuances, it just looks like Westbrook. He runs that way. He is so athletic. He is bursting in transition. He's huge vertical. He's very athletic, and he's another guy who's going to contribute. You have guys, I mean, Chris Harris, I thought was very promising as a shooter, right? The numbers didn't capitalize. The percentage didn't look great, but you just saw his raw ability, his mechanics, everything. He looked sound. And Donovan Williams, who was, again, a freshman who came in late, transferred late from, I believe, was supposed to go to Kansas State or one of those schools, and flipped late, came to OSU. And he is, I know it was either him or JT Thor or someone or another, but this guy, Donovan Williams, is very, very talented. He was elite shooter, shot 10 times a game, not a great team around him, but he is range. He can pull from range. Like, I'll tell you that. Like, he can pull from range. You give him an inch of space. We talked about Cade giving a few feet. Donovan Williams give him an inch of space. Farron's the same way as well. And he'll just pull up in your face, right? You have guys, he is attacking you, and these guys are multidimensional. We'll get into that a little bit later. But, yeah, just shooting-wise, you have so much, right? And Keelan Boone was a great shooter last year, right? For OSU, gave great floor spacing. He's only going to get better. The development, I think, is getting better all over. Avery Anderson was very promising, much more in the mid-range. His mid-range pull-up is sweet. Yeah. Very quick guy. And I think overall, you're just going to have much better shooting, and it's going to help your floor spacing. It's going to help your entire offense, especially when you play four guards and forwards out, one center in the middle, or just one forward in the middle, right? It's going to be a very different lineup for sure. They're definitely smaller. But I think the floor spacing is going to be so key because, like, you want to worry about OSU's big man depth. I'd rather have a problem with, okay, the big man depth might be a little bit lacking, or the big man might be a little lacking, than the shooting is lacking, because one is more of a luxury, one is an essential.
I think what you're going to see here is a lot of these young guys stepping up into that role. You talked about Chris Harris, right? And I think he had huge moments of potential, like huge flashes of potential last season with his shooting. Keelan Boone too. I think he's been a consistent shooter, like in his time here. I think when he gets more opportunities. Last season, what you saw a lot of was Cam McGriff. A lot of shots being taken by him. A lot of shots from Lindy Waters, right? And sure, they made a couple of them, right? They made a bunch of them, but not enough to propel them to being one of the top teams of the Big 12. And that, not to take anything away from them, but man, it was just a weird limbo year, I feel like, one of those weird middling type of years where you're seeing some of these weird shots being put up. And that's why, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me. Maybe this is me recognizing sort of, the recruiting talent of some of the guys that were freshmen last year. But I kind of wanted to see him let loose a little bit more. I wanted to see a little bit more shot opportunities for them. And this season, I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think a lot of it had to do with defense almost. In the sense of, learning defense, learning play defense, understanding how to also play under control. You saw that from Avery Anderson a lot. He was a talented guy, but also one that was out of control a lot of times, right? And you don't want that, right? You want to have guys that are square and understanding when to pick their spots and how to go about it. High energy is great. High energy is awesome, but it's also holding that competitiveness and understanding. Because most of these guys came from being the best player on their team, right? Yeah. Most high school players do, besides Chris Harris. He played with Tyrese Maxey, future NBA guy, great guy in Kentucky, one of the best players in college basketball. But for the most part, most of these guys come as the best player from their team, right? And it's learning to adapt and, settle down and understand your role. And last year this year, it's just a role of everyone's trying to grab it because they were the best player, and now you keep being the best player. But usually a few seniors kind of bounce around. But, yeah, no, you're right. A lot of guys who have a lot of talent. And another guy I just remembered that I forgot to mention, huge mistake, Rondell Walker. Oh, yeah. Right? There's no way we forget Rondell Walker, right? He is so talented. He's a little skinny, obviously, but he's already, I think, a guy who's going to make an impact because – as Coach Boyden loves, defense, right? Rondell Walker can make it from the defense. I think he holds PCUS all-time record for steals, but just watch him. He is long. He plays tenaciously on defense. We talk about Cade Cunningham's defense, but this guy plays strong. He is so smart at his IQ. He knows when the ball is exposed, when you're dribbling, and he can just jab right at it, grab steals that way, sticks on you like glue, plays hard on defense. But as a shooter, this guy is a knockdown shooter, right? Of this class, besides Donovan Williams, maybe even including Donovan Williams, Rondell might just be the best shooter. He was great as a shooter. He's got great mechanics. Doesn't dip the ball very low. That's what I loved about him. Great, definitely a lot of range as well. And overall, is a lot of talent, and I think a lot of young guys just ready to seize that moment for sure.
I think so. I think we'll see that quite a bit. Here's the thing, though. Here's the big concern that some people have, right? Outside of there potentially not being an NCAA tournament run this year, is sort of the big men depth, right?
Sure.
Man, there's like no one. Caleb Boone, of course. That's a guy you can look at. Moncrief, of course. But I mean, we go down to some of these other names. Gosh. Help me out here. Bernard Kuma, I believe. Bernard Kuma.
Hey, your guess is as good as
God
mine.
love him. God love him. I'm sure he's a great man. But will he be able to be somebody that steps up in that role? Or is this going to be another, Hidi Rusing type of deal where it's just not doesn't or gosh, who is that other guy? The guy that transferred to Vermont. His name is escaping me. This was before your time here at OSU, but something. He was a big man. He transferred out, and Nate transferred out too. Seeing less and less big men on this team.
Before Yor and Haiti transferred, there was already a worry on the big man depth, right? And for good reason, for sure. But I mean, here's the thing. Like I said before, one's an essential and one's a luxury, right?
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, I'll bring up the Houston Rockets. I'm not saying anyone should follow that method, but there's a reason you're able to do that, right? You have a versatile piece like PJ Tucker who is so strong enough, but it's not just, hey, we need this, right? We need this one-on-one matchup.
Right.
This is the mistake people make so often in 2020, in 2015, whatever, that it's all about one-on-one defense. It's all about, hey, can that person match up with this person? This is a very, very changed basketball atmosphere. It's not anymore about, hey, yeah, Michael Jordan's covering blah, 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 right? It's not LeBron James covering blah, blah. It's none of that. It's, hey, how many positions can you cover? Can you play team defense? Can you rotate? Can you double? Can you rotate back? Can you be smart? Can you work within the system of the defense? The best defensive teams come from the best defensive systems. That's how it is nowadays. And with any team, with this team especially, to begin the year, obviously you had a much bigger boost with Isaac Likely, given his defensive prowess.
Mm-hmm.
But just the overall togetherness seemed a lot better, right? It meshed so well. Zone defense, man defense, whatever it was, it worked so well because you were able to rotate, right? You were able to double on the block. When the ball goes in the post, you're fronting it, right? You're denying the pass before it comes in. Someone else behind, so you can't lob it over you, right? And then you're rotating back if they try to do that. You're moving constantly. You're covering the whole floor while also covering half the floor, right? You're able to do that kind of stuff. And with this team, I think they have the personnel. Let's not forget, height-wise, 6'5", 6'8", 6'3", 6'7", 6'9". Those are your 5 starting guys.
Yeah.
That's a lot of length out there.
Sure.
That's a lot of height, right? A lot of strength as well. We talk about Cade and Isaac Likely can cover a lot of different positions, right? And that's why I think that can shore up a lot of the big man depth because I'll say this, it just sucks if with Bernard, the big thing was he's so raw, right? That's the issue with. It's not like you brought up the Haiti Riesling example. It's a little different because he didn't come with the hype bet, right? But it's one of those things, like you're saying, it's one of those things where if he doesn't pan out, if he doesn't able to at least soak up 5-10 minutes a game, at least soak up something, not only when Caleb Boone goes to the bench, what happens a game where Caleb Boone's out? What happens when he gets in foul trouble, right? Is a thing where we see Matthew Alexander Moncrief at the 5.
Yeah. Quite
potentially. But it's not even a thing of, hey, the Big 12 doesn't have a lot of big centers. Even if they have Azubuike, I think, it's not about one-on-one matchups. Deny the ball down low. Keep rotating. Play as a team. Team defense is so much more key.
Oh, yeah.
If you're able to do that, and I think with Coach Boynton you can, then I think you'll be fine. And I think it's actually better and more to your advantage because on the other side of the court, they probably can't defend you.
And you know what, too? It's also a thing of, you like you said, the team defense, but it's the length, too. I mean,
right.
These guys,
yeah.
It's not, you mentioned it, too. It's like, these are some big guys. Your point guard's 6'8", and I'm not saying that the point guard's 6'8", so everyone else must be huge. No, but that's solid still. Like Azubuike is not the biggest concern in the world. Like there's ways around it. There's a reason, like you said, the Houston Rockets this year, they were not trounced by some of these teams with bigger centers, right? With Anthony Davis, right?
Right.
Some games they were, sure, but that's just how basketball goes sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But it's also there's ways to attack it. Help defense, team defense is huge.
Sure, and in that Rockets example, the big thing is whatever little bit you give up here and there, you double, triple, quadruple it on offense,
that's
right?
so true.
And that's the same thing here. You just put your best guys out there. And it works, right? If the system works, you're flowing on offense. If you're able to do enough on defense, you're chilling, honestly.
Yeah, and it's not a thing of like, we talk about all the time, like the sort of more traditional classic type centers, got man down, big man down low, triangle offense, whatever. No,
it's dying.
It is dying. I'd even say it's dead.
Yeah, I mean, Azubuike, for all his strength, they went to a little more post up last year.
Sure.
But like that's really not the move anymore, right?
It's not.
It's pick and rolls, let them run down the floor in transition, come off at lob runners. Those are really, I mean, look at Mobamba at Texas, right? And I think I'll give you this example. Baylor last year, Freddie Gillespie, their starting center, 6'8". All four of their other players, all guards, 6'5" and below, right? That's how you went. And they were one of the best, if not the best, defensive team in the country.
Yeah.
It's because you're able to play team defense. Forget the size. I mean, just look at that, 6'8" max. And that's what you're getting, and you're still the best team. It just goes to show you, it's about length is so important, no doubt. I love that you brought that up. But in my mind, when I talk about team defense, length is so important. You're able to affect passing lanes. You're able to make things a little bit harder. When you're rotating, it gives you that extra half a second to be a little bit late and still affect the play, right? Still affect the player. So which is why I don't think it'll have any sort of effect.
No, I don't think it will either. And there's also like maneuverability too. You can finesse your way through some of these big men because, while Azubuike, I don't keep bringing up Azubuike. There's other centers out there, but while, that's just a perfect example. Like here's your prototypical huge center in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
There's ways to get around him, especially if you're Cade Cunningham. We talk about the passing ability. You don't think Cade Cunningham could feed someone to get around Azubuike or one of the other top centers in the country, like some of these big men? I think he can.
Yeah, and look at Kansas. That was a team for years. Traditionally, they were two big men, right?
Yeah.
High-low post game, right? That's what you saw for so many years.
Morris twins.
Right, and they got away from it when that year where Devontae Graham broke out, right?
Yes.
You had 5 playing the 4. And then you were like, whoa, this is so weird for Kansas. They have 1 center. Now it looks like they'll have 0 centers, right? Or that in the future, everyone will have 0 centers, right? It's just a whole different game. And you actually have an advantage, like you said. You have the advantage when you have these quicker guys who are able to rotate, right? Move up and down, get to spots. And because they're so athletic and so strong. For example, Donovan Williams, a guy who's 6'5". His coach told me, high school coach told me, he benched 285 in high school, which is big for a 6'5" guard. But also, when you watched him play, and I was almost like, okay, I can't believe this is real, so I had to make sure with this coach.
Yeah.
He was covering 6'10" big men the entire game I watched.
I remember you told me that.
Yes, and I was just outstanding. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And he was grabbing rebounds over them, great leverage, boxed out very well, fundamental. That's another thing, right? You talk about the rebounding. You have length and you have size, you have strength from these guys to rebound.
Yeah.
But yeah, Donovan Williams, he was boxing out. He was playing great post defense, right? 6'5" against like a 6'8", 6'10" guy. And his coach told me, yeah, that was a product of us not having any bigger guys. But at the same time, Donovan Williams, a shooting guard, gave you that versatility because he was so strong. And that's the type of versatility you have. Matthew Alexander-Moncrief is an excellent elite defender, high motor as well. And he's playing at the 4. Like I said, there's times where you'll probably see him at the 5, right? And that's just fine because you have so much versatility. Boyden is not worried in the slightest because of that, and I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about post defense too, the way you do that is exactly what you said, leverage, right?
Right.
Sort of being it's not an advantage, right? It's not an advantage to be shorter down low, but sort of like if you can get that leverage and you have great strength like a guy like Donovan Williams does, like some of these other guys might have, and you can have that leverage. You almost just like stick your leg right in between theirs and sort of just have that sort of ability to defend down low and have that strength, have that athleticism, have whatever else you want to have in there. Then you can. It's doable. It's doable. And teams do it, and especially I think OSU could do it with that defensive mentality that they have.
Yeah, you're not sticking one-on-one, but like I said, you front the post, you deny the ball before it comes down. You shrink the floor by just constantly rotating. Bring a guy down, rotate your guys around. And that's the advantage of having versatility. Say you bring in a guy from the corner to defend from the post while the back guy covers it, but then they pass the corner.
Right.
Then Isaac Likely, who's in the top, will rotate there. Then the top guy will rotate up. And then the guy covering Azubuike will rotate up. You know what I'm saying? It just it makes more sense in my head. But
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it just rotates around, and that's where you keep it going. And that's the impact of having versatile guys. 5 guys who can probably cover anyone. Caleb Boone, maybe not, but he can still cover probably forwards if he has to rotate on a play. He's that athletic, right? I mean, yeah, it's great to have a guy like that. I mean, even him, he's 6'9", right? He's 210 pounds, not big enough, but it's one of those things where whatever you lack in defense, which won't be crazy because the defensive mentality in the system and just the overall approach, you could make up with offense.
Sure. Yeah, you definitely can. And sticking with the defense theme, though, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about this defense. What are they going to do? Do you think they're going to do man? Do you think they're going to go a little bit of zone? I know they did a little bit of both last year, obviously. And at times, some people we do that would just get frustrated about it. Sure. But I don't know, because you can do a little bit. You can have a little bit of fun with this team, I feel like. I think, like you said, there's so many guys in this team with that length, with that ability to defend multiple positions, that you can sort of do I don't want to say do what you want, but you can have a little bit of creativity with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. At times, I love the zone.
Oh, right? I did too.
At times, when they were playing it right.
Shuffling with ease, like with perfection sometimes.
The Houston game, I think, is a number one example for me.
There you go.
Where they were playing perfectly. You saw synergy where they were moving as one unit.
Yeah.
Zone, you're covering a zone, but Syracuse does it best, right? When the ball goes to the right wing, everyone's rotating that side.
Down there, yeah.
Your farthest guy is probably in the middle of the paint. When the ball, because for the ball to go to the other side, that takes a long time. You can rotate your guys back by then. And you see the defense moving as one. You see the double teams coming at a great time where it's very hard to get passes out. You'll see the rotations being awesome. You'll see all of it together. When guys are running around, when guys aren't making rotations, when guys aren't committing, then it doesn't work. It falls apart. But right now with this team, I think you can play the zone. I think there's huge advantages to it, right? Obviously, when you go against great shooting teams, it becomes much more difficult to do that. So I think you have the versatility to do either. And I think both will have its advantages. And because at times when you're playing teams that might not be the greatest shooting, because here's the thing, yeah, you give up some shots when you're playing a zone, but you're also not giving them all the shots in the world, right? But you play man, and yeah, you have a little bit of a difference there. Maybe playing against good big men, your zone can definitely help eliminate some of that, right? You got little intricacies, and you're right, creativity. It can go both ways. I think you can do both, and I think that's such an advantage in itself.
I think they will do both. I definitely think they will do both. Because there will be situations in teams that they can go against that they can, maul them on defense with that man.
Sure.
But I like what you said about, sort of the synergy of the way the zone works. I think it's actually it was a marvel to watch last year. That last year's team was a little bit out of sync sometimes with the zone movements. But I can't wait to see it this year. Can you imagine the zone this year just being all in incorporation? Cade Cunningham out there as the vocal leader, having that zone, sort of on display there, and seeing some just fantastic defense. I think that's going to end up being one. We'll talk about the offense in a second. Don't you worry. But I think one of the most underrated aspects about this team this year will be that zone. That will be not just the zone, just the defense as a whole. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
I think so, and I think it's going to almost be the starting point to the offense where you play a zone, you can create turnovers, right? At times, especially if you start pressing, and they got the guards to do it, right?
Yeah.
When you press, you need to be deep because you're expending a lot of energy, right? And you're rotating guys in and out, and this team has the depth, obviously, right, to do that. But you can be deep, and then you can keep rotating in guards, also talented defensive guards. And you can create turnovers, even if it's just in the half court. You're creating turnovers. You're getting on the run. You're starting up the offense. And overall, you got so many opportunities just to be great defensively. And defense wins championships. It's not just a cliche.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it before, but man, we might not see that championship this year because postseason, man. But we'll see what happens. So going on, there's a lot of talk right now also about sort of the, I guess if you want to call it an experience or whatever you want to call it, but there's some talented second-year players here that sort of play like they have been here for quite a bit, right? And maybe it was the doldrums, the up and down, the peaks and valleys of last season that sort of forced them to mature. But man, there's some guards, especially on the bench, that I really like, and Caleb Boone, obviously too, is one of my favorite second-year players here at OSU.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where it was such a messy situation, right?
Yeah.
Avery Anderson at times had to be forced into that starting point guard role. Didn't adjust, right? Because he had to take over for Isaac Likely when he was still had to mature in the sense of slowing down, playing under control, right? Because besides that, he has so much talent as a two-way player, right?
Yeah.
Chris Harris obviously got hurt. You had so many different things. Keelan Boone and Caleb Boone both really started to shine later toward the end of the season, right? Caleb almost just took that starting role where to begin the year, it almost looked like he was going to start. They'll start at Caleb Boone, right? He's obviously still not as big and probably not as strong as you want him to be. Definitely got stronger as a freshman, right? Looked the part for sure. I think his per 40 minutes, he had 2.7 blocks per game.
Yeah.
He's going to play a lot more minutes. He's going to grab rebounds. He's going to defend really well. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get better. But right now, he's just a versatile type forward, right? At a center, where I don't know how his shooting is because he didn't really shoot much last year. Maybe he develops that a little bit this year. But even if he doesn't, you have 4 shooters surrounding him. You have a guy who is a rim runner, right? Who just talk about how good of passers these guys are, right? Cade and Isaac Likely in transition. You have a guy in Caleb Boone who can run the floor as well as any big man can go and grab lobs. He has a 7'4" wingspan, I believe. That's very long. That's what helps him, right? A 6'9" guy who has a 7'4" wingspan, 7'3" wingspan, whatever it is able to, be such a good rim protector. I mean, that's key. Rim protection is awesome, right? And when you lose those true centers, a lot of times you lose the rim protection. But you have the athleticism of a guy who's able to rotate over and block shots. That just changes the complexion on defense. And then on offense, this guy is going to get better and better, right? On the post, low block, he showed a little bit last year. He's going to get better. Obviously, the arsenal is going to get better and better. He's going to be able to do more on the block for sure. And maybe as a shooter. And then, Keelan Boone, we talked about him as a shooter. He's important. Chris Harris, I really like Chris Harris. You're right. You mentioned him before, but I mentioned the shooting, right? You saw a lot of promise, but what it really loved was his IQ and his athleticism and his just array of moves.
It's his birthday, by the way.
Well, happy birthday. But he was, when he got into the paint, right, he used to, bust out Euro steps, spin moves, have so many different moves. You're right. Raw, the percentages don't look great, the points per game. But there was so much promise, right? With a pretty, tightly packed body, a lot of strength there, very athletic. He had so many, like I said, an array of different moves. He was so talented, and you could just see it, right? You just saw the potential right there on a platter for him, ready to take it. And Avery Anderson's a guy who we slightly mentioned, but he is so talented. He is, in the mid-range, he already looks polished. He's so quick, one of the quickest guys on his team, if not the quickest guy.
Yeah.
He can get to the rim. He is a two-way player, high energy, great defender for sure. Like Patrick Beverly, I remember that comparison was made. But he's that kind of player, and he's just a fighter. He's a little short, but he is a fighter. A bunch of second-year players were very talented.
Yeah, and
who now have experience and more maturity under their belt.
That's what I'm saying. And a lot of people talk about the youth, right? They talk about sort of this. I don't really see it as that much of an issue because there's enough guys here. Farron Flavors is a guy who stepped in already and looks sort of like a leader. Isaac Likely, people forget he's a junior. I mean, he's what? Yeah. I think he's the only junior on this team, maybe?
Yeah. I think
he's the only junior on this team. This is a guy who he's been with the program. People forget. Like, I mean, I think because I came into school here and he was a freshman here, same year as myself. But I always think, oh man, like he's got to be even when he was a freshman, I saw him as a leader. I mean, he's a guy that was able to be that leader role. Between him, Farron Flavors, Cade Cunningham by default, all these other guys, even the guys from last year, I think are going to have sort of that edge on them to make youth not be an issue.
Leadership is like we talk about this all the time, right? I mean, respect is not handed; it's earned, right? It's something you earn.
Exactly.
And you're right. Isaac Likely was a leader last year simply because he was vocal, because he earned the respect by being this not only productive player on the floor, but just a leader who was a floor general, who controlled the offense, who got guys in the right space, who controlled this team. You saw his impact when he left, right? As a leader, as a floor general, as everything. And Cade Cunningham was the same way, right? He walks in, he was playing on the scout team, right? Like it was one of those things where it's for one of the games, I believe he had a penny on playing on the scout team. Like it was one of those things where you quickly earn respect when you're Cade Cunningham, a freshman, right? You saw him in that practice. He was pointing things out, like telling some guys, do this, do that, right? You see that. Some guys just draw that sort of thing. Farron Flavors, for sure. He's a graduate transfer, and he is a guy who's a little bit quiet, but either way, he is lead by example. You watch him, and you see guys replicate that, because when you see a guy who's so mature, who's working so hard to do those kind of things, it's different. I don't think the youth becomes that much an issue because of it.
I don't think it will. And obviously, like you said, Fair and Flavor is a little bit more quiet, but I mean, you see him like interact with his teammates, and it's a great time. I mean, we've seen it before, and they all have a good time together. But it's still a thing of respect. You could tell, and they do respect him and his experience. Now, I know you've been ready for this. I know you were excited for this. Let's finish with the offense. We got to talk about how fast paced this offense is going to be, in transition, in just set up plays, and all these other stuff. This offense is going to be something special this year. Whatever the defense may look like, and I think it's going to look elite, I think this offense is going to outshine everything.
I mean, I think so too. I mean, you have two guys who are at the top of it, right? Mm-hmm. Cade Cunningham, Isaac Likely, who can push the ball in transition. You have a bunch of guards who are very athletic, a bunch of guys who are athletic. We just talked about Caleb Boone. It's like you're going to cause turnovers, you're going to get down in transition. You're going to grab rebounds, you're just going to run in transition because you got that sort of team. Cade Cunningham is 6'8". I've seen him throw outlet passes that were just on point. He's got the strength, he's got the size, he's got the IQ, and he's got the playmaking ability to make it happen. Right? He's just able to push the ball. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see rebounds grabbed, and you're going to see, I think, a great offense. I think because the shooting is so good, and I think the floor spacing, and I believe Coach Mike Boynton is an excellent coach. I believe that is true. And, I mean, everyone just wants to call him a recruiter, but I think he's a good coach. I really do. Because when the pieces are there, and when he has the right talent out there, and injuries don't happen and things don't happen here and there, I see it. And I'm not one to make excuses, but you see it. And I think it's going to work out. And I think the offense is going to be awesome. But, I mean, this team is more than Cade. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
This is a message to Nationwide where they're putting OSU in this top 7, right? 7th in the Big 12 poll, whatever. But this team is a lot more than Cade. We just went over a bunch of players. Guy we barely touched on, Matthew Alexander Moncrief.
Yes.
Right? He is going to likely start. I think, what was Mike Boynton's quote? If Matthew Alexander Moncrief was a U.S.-born player, played in America, he would be a top 20 recruit.
Oh, yeah.
And I turn on the tape and you believe it immediately. Back-to-back Canadian Player of the Year, right? This guy is very talented. He's 6'7". He has got a high motor. That's what your number one thing sticks out. 7.6 rebounds per game, but forget the number. Just watch him play.
Watch him play.
Yeah, I mean, you see him attacking the glass constantly on offense, on defense. He misses the ball. He grabs it himself. He sees someone else miss it. He grabs it, offense or defense. And as a slasher, that's where this guy really handing the ball. He is excellent. He's got a lot of power in a 6'7" frame, but also finesse where he just hits angles you don't see, where he'll be driving in and you'll think you have him stuffed without his strength, without his everything. He'll Euro step around you, spin shot, and he'll get in the air. He's got a lot of hang time, great vertical. And then he'll be in the air, and you think you got him stopped, then he'll just extend out his arm.
Yeah.
He's got great finesse there. He is a very talented guy. Farron, we talked about the shooting, but he is a guy who is a much more than a shooter. He can get to the rim for sure, shoot off the bounce. When he's driving in, he'll just stop on a dime, pull up, hit off-balance shots, work in the pick-and-roll game, move without the ball really well. And, yeah, I mean, Donovan Williams, we talked about a little bit, and the defense, but, man, the offense. I mentioned the shooting before.
Yeah.
He is another guy who's a good passer. He is an excellent at the rim. He can finish for sure. He's got a lot of strength there, but also a lot of you just give him an inch of space. He hits creases really well and finishes at the rim. Rondell Walker, I mentioned the shooting with him as well, but he is a guy he's a combo guard, and he functions as a point guard. He really does. He has that sort of mentality. Where down the line he's probably going to play more point guard when Isaac Likely's gone, when Cade Cunningham's gone, but he is a guy who even when he's playing shooting guard, he was out there for PCUS pointing out the plays, directing guys different places, and he moves so well without the ball, which is why he's great as a shooting guard. Where you see him at plays where he sells it so well. I remember there was one play specifically where he's moving one way, his arm's going that way, and he looks like he's going to the 3-point line to catch a ball, where he'll immediately change directions, cut right to the rim, or cut right to another spot, and he's wide open. It's so smart. Great IQ, for sure. And at the rim, he's great on pick and rolls. He can pull up on a dime. He's got great talent, for sure. And all over, you just see guys with so much talent. I mentioned Bryce Williams before, explosive. I think it's just so much talent all over. And the guys that have bought in, right? Not just bought into the system, but bought into the coach, bought into the city, bought into everything. You just love talking to this team because they've bought into everything. They're like mimics of how Coach Boynton is so exuberant and so great, right? Not a single player that isn't, and it's got the right makeup, the shooting, the defense, everything that screams 2020 basketball, modern day basketball.
Yep, yeah, and you know what I think too is is a huge key here is the off-ball movement. I think the off-ball movement is going to be great from a lot of these guys. You mentioned Farrah Flavors. I think he could do that. He's a guy who can do that extremely well. And I think, oh my goodness, when this team sets picks, when they do some pick and roll, it's going to be lights out against some of these defenses, right? Cade Cunningham specifically. I know the message to the nation, it's more than just Cade. Cade's still there, though.
But he's a catalyst for this team. There's no question. Mm-hmm. And it's just saying there's more than Cade. It just shows that this team has more than just
layers and layers.
And that's awesome because you're going to see so many places. We talked about Trae Young. Mm-hmm. When Trae Young was at OU, there was no help. Really, there wasn't. I remember just seeing there's so much struggling over there. Mm-hmm. But now you've got so much help around Cade. You got so many guys. You got a second playmaker, first off, who, if Cade gets in foul trouble, Cade gets hurt, Cade is just struggling, you have another guy who can just do the same thing very, very well.
I cannot wait to see it. And we will have all the coverage for you guys all season long. It's going to be an interesting season for sure. We've already seen this in the offseason, but we will continuously cover it from here on out. Thank you so much for listening to the Deep in the Novo podcast. I'm Ryan Novozinsky, joined here as always by Sudeep Tumma. Have a great day.